percentage of sports fans, any sports fans, anywhere, do you think use the term tanking correctly? That's my abstract quiz for the day. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates that I hope you'll also check out. Tanking has been defined forever in sports and continues to be correctly defined as losing on purpose so that your team can benefit in draft position. It doesn't quite have to go to the extreme of literally losing games on purpose, and it never goes to the extreme of getting the players involved. But it does mean that you can strip the entire thing down and privately, secretly hope that you finish in last place or last in the league, and from there you get rewarded with Mario or Sid or the 700 guys in a row that they got in Edmonton and still can't win the Stanley Cup. So no, expecting to have a down year or not going all in by signing a ton of free agents doesn't mean that your team, or in this case, the Penguins, are tanking. That's not my opinion. That's based on an actual definition, an actual fact. They are not tanking. But if I still haven't convinced you, and judging by how long this conversation's gone on, from what I can see, hear, and read in public, it'll take a little bit more. So here's this. In the NHL draft lottery, if your team finishes with the worst record in the entire league, you still only have an 18.5% chance of getting the first overall pick. Nobody, my friends, is going to allow their entire season in front of their city and their fan base and risking their own jobs, I might add, so that they can line up at 18.5% and then watch the Islanders get the pick anyway, which is what just happened. Yes, the Islanders, who had the 10th best odds of winning that lottery, 3.5%, zip all the way to number one. So if anyone cares to make vague references to the past, and by the past I mean the distant past because the lottery's been around for a while now, the Islanders come along with a refresher. What's more, and this is the part that gets me because this is the one that smart hockey people who I know love the sport and pay close attention to it, are still falling into this figurative trap. And that's that because the Penguins aren't going bonkers and chasing Mitch Marner or whatever this summer, that they're just basically punting on this season. And whether it's tanking or punting doesn't matter to this part of what I'm bringing up. Kyle Dubas is of the opinion, and his plan is set up this way, that the Penguins need to get to a certain point, a certain volume of higher-end prospects to be able to come out on the other side of this Sidney Crosby's final years thing, well-positioned for both the immediate future and the far-flung future. Now, we might wind up at some stage of this disagreeing on his sense of the timing or his sense for what kind of numbers he needs, what kind of quantity he needs to go with the quality. But for right now, the part that I feel like everybody's missing and really deserves some credit, instead of being cast as a punt or a tank, is, look, it just happened again yesterday. Matt Dumba was acquired from the Stars. This is not a significant transaction, but Dumba was acquired for Vladislav Kolyachonok, who just wasn't going to be part of anything here. You saw him. I saw him. I'm not going to rip him. You know, it was there. He was a waiver claim from Utah. He got a few games in. He didn't show all that much. Maybe a little bit of a splash here or there, but nothing that would make you say, wow, yeah, 24 years old, the ceiling's really high for this dude. No. Whereas in Dallas, they're overwhelmed with the cap. Dumba's making more than $3 million. Penguins have cap space. Dumba comes here, and so does a second-round pick in the 2028 draft, which makes the new total of draft picks that have been piled up by Dubas 29 over the next 3 years, 17 of those in the first 3 rounds. My friends, that's a lot of weaponry. Doesn't mean he's going to be efficient with it. Doesn't mean he won't do something that doesn't pan out, but it improves his odds, his management team's odds, his scouts' odds of getting enough players right over that time. Now, if they happen to be the first ever collection of hockey people to bat 1,000, I mean, they just nail them all, okay, then good for them. But they're not going to. They're absolutely not going to. So what you want are the numbers. He has gotten these numbers, if you think about it, without really having to do all that much to alter the Pittsburgh roster. Of course, Jake Gensel was a big blow in that regard. Certainly in the moment. Marcus Pettersson doesn't help. But you got significant returns for those guys, and possibly very significant returns if Harrison Brunick and Ville Koivunen become the players that I believe they can be. But none of that, none of what I'm talking about has anything to do with losing games or wanting to lose games or even believing that you're going to lose games at some odd pace in the 2025-26 NHL season. Why is that? Well, I've been over this, but it bears repeating. This team, this mostly identical mass of players, finished this past season 10-5-2 and beat some of the very best playoff qualifiers in the league in the process. You want to dump on that? Go nuts. That's not my problem. You want to ignore that they were really banged up before that? Also your prerogative. You want to ignore that even when they brought up, especially when they brought up Koivunen, Rutger McGroarty, a couple other youngsters, they not only kept it going, but in certain ways, they looked like a better team. And since the end of this past season, this might be the most important point of the whole program, they've actually become better. Whatever it is or was that you thought of that 10-5-2 or even the season as a whole, you're not going to be able to form a cogent argument that the roster right now on the 11th of July isn't better than the one that ended this past season. Just slightly, but better, because both things really can happen. But when we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q isn't a question at all. It's a comment that was sent here by Mike Irwin. He says, the Penguins made the ultimate mistake. They allowed sentiment to rule over logic. They never should have signed Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin to their current and hopefully expiring contracts. Those two have not been worthy players for at least 3+ years. Now, I'm not going to go at Mike here. I'm grateful that you listen to the show, Mike. I respect your right to hold the hockey opinion that you hold. But in that spirit, my goodness, dude, just look at the most base numbers and then think for yourself how you are allowing sentiment to rule over logic. Your sentiment is that here are two guys who are getting older, and because they're not as great as they once were, and really when you're talking about great, you're talking about Gino, then they are not, and I'm quoting you directly here, worthy players for at least 3+ years. All right, I'm going to focus here on Gino instead of both of them, because to me it's just mind-blowing that anybody would think this about Gino. Before the 2022-23 NHL season, exactly in the time frame that you lay out, Mike, over the past 3 seasons, Gino has made $6.1 million in each of those. Same figure that'll apply in the coming season. I'd think that you and I could agree that's not all that much for an NHL number 2 center. From there, take Gino's actual statistics. This isn't my opinion. This isn't my stance. These are numbers. Past 3 seasons, he has logged 82, 82, and 68 games. The only games he's missed in those 3 seasons were the 14 this past year. Also in those 3 seasons, he scored 27, 27, and 16 goals. 56, 40, and 34 assists. His point totals in those 3 years were 83, 67, and 50. Conveniently enough, that's exactly 200 points in 3 seasons. 200 points in 3 seasons for $6 million a year. Listen to what you're saying, or at least stop and think about it on occasion. The stuff that is getting repeated about this team is so many miles off the mark that it's hard to even come up with a counter to some of it with a straight face. 200 points in 3 seasons, and that's not worthy in the eyes of Mike Irwin. How does that happen? Are you listening to talk radio or something? How does that happen? I hope you stay with me, Mike. That's the best thing I can say to you today. I really do. If not, there's nothing I can do about it. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins. I'm sorry, but this one hits a nerve. This is one of the great players in hockey history, and you're lumping him in with somebody to try to prove some weird point that doesn't even make sense. We will be back with another one of these next Monday.